he just fucking hits her with the fucking stupid, crazy last shot of all time. Where the whole film zooms into Donald Sutherland's mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a zoom in on his mouth. The end. And it cuts to her hysterically screaming at like the sound of her impending doom. Like, isn't this horrible, guys?
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody. It's one fucking hour time. Of course, the show where we talk about one goddamn movie for one fucking hour. I am Evan Husney, and we got Tom Fitzgerald in the house. Tom, what's going on?
Hi there. We survived Hurricane Hillary out here. So living another day in Dreamland.
That's right. That's right. All right.
Yeah.
But I was a little concerned about this person to my right because he's on the beach. How you doing, Mr. Marcus Herring?
I spent the day before like sandbagging and secure like nailing doors shut and things like that. And all for nothing. It was just a little bit of rain, slight breeze. No flood. So I don't know if anyone wants to buy some sandbags,
autograph them.
Send a message.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some
just pay for
signed
shipping
sandbags
and
from Marcus Herring. All right, guys. It is episode 78, which means we are covering a movie from 1978, and y'all voted on this one, which is Philip Kaufman's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Kind of ran away with the poll this week, so that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Got pretty much half of the votes or near half of the votes. We had some other awesome picks in there. I am prepared this time to discuss the other films that were voted on. We did have Blue Collar. Blue Collar would have been great.
I'm never going to get a chance to watch that.
Oh, yeah, you haven't seen
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Oh, shit. Blue Collar's some tough stuff. It's great. It's a great flick. We also had, as a possibility, one fucking hour on Gates of Heaven, which is the first Errol Morris feature-length doc. Great stuff. Like, great backstory, with Werner Herzog eating his shoe because of that movie. Like, that could have been fun, right? And Tom, do you remember the last movie?
Oh, God. 1978.
Yeah.
Girlfriends?
Yeah, that's right. It was, yes. Girlfriends was the other
I knew that didn't have a chance in hell. Not with this group.
I know. I was really
7%.
sad. Yeah, it was a 7%er. Girlfriends, great flick. Someday we're going to force it on y'all. It's cool. A really great movie. It's a really, really cool movie. And again, far ahead of its time. There's like 800 movies like Girlfriends now that come out every year. But real quick, guys, breaking news alert. And just like that is now greenlit for a third season. Tom, thoughts?
I'm walking on air. Yeah. The key question is how much Che Diaz is happening. Because I thought she was being choked out early in this season, and it was just like, all right, thanks, goodbye. But the character's really coming back, but she's kind of a doucher, so I don't know if they're gonna. I'm just curious, like, about everything. As we get a cliffhanger.
They're just pumping Che back to life. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know to what end. So bring it on, season Trey, right, Marcus?
Season Che.
I don't know.
Just say yes.
Is this like a Sex in the City thing?
Yes. Okay.
All right. I don't know anything about it except for I did hear an NPR segment and they were trashing on Che Diaz the whole time, and I thought, wow, if NPR's got a problem with this character, it must be bad.
Well, it's like, I think it's too easy to dump on Che Diaz. All kidding aside, like there's a lot of huge like fundamental problems with that show, and it's like, and Che's there. But it's like for instance, what they did, and I will stop. Like what they did with how they wrapped up the Stanford character.
I know.
Wow.
I actually felt for you. I actually felt for you in that moment. Yeah, I really did.
Brutal. Because
shout out.
This is like shitting. Like the guy. Okay, so I'll stop. The guy passed away. The actor. And they're like making him dance as a character. Like, well, here's what the man who passed away like months ago. Here's what we're gonna make his iconic character do. It's like, stop it. The show does that. They're evil people.
Well, shout out to all the people that clicked on the 1 fucking hour on Invasion of the Body Snatchers and got a little side dose of and just like that commentary.
Yeah, enjoy.
You people are the best. And one more stop here on the 1 fucking hour train before we get to Destination Body Snatchers. Just want to give a quick shout out to the 1 fucking hour Patreon. Thank you everybody who has signed up thus far. Of course, that is at patreon.com/1 fucking hour. We have launched this Patreon in order to record feature-length audio commentary tracks, DVD-style commentary tracks from back in the day. You sign up, it's only $5 a month. You get access to all of our commentary tracks. We give you simple instructions how to sync up our voices with the movie. And it's been a lot of fun, man. We've done a lot of really great films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Grandpa is drinking that fresh blood, and he starts acting like a goo-goo baby. It's the most. That is the most grotesque thing.
It is.
That's like the most grotesque thing I've ever said. It's like he's like, oh, that's some good blood. Yeah.
And we've done also some fucking Drek, which has been really fun. We've dunked on the Psycho 98, the Gus Van Sant remake. And most recently, we did What Women Want, all 2 hours plus of that. That was fun. But we're getting back to, we're really getting back to it now, covering a 70s flick that did not win the poll during our summer series that we're doing here, of course, on the main show. So we're really excited to announce it here that we're going to be doing a DVD commentary track to, drum roll, Jaws. That's right.
Yeah.
So by the time that you hear this episode, hopefully that should be up or shortly thereafter. If you sign up right now, patreon.com/1 fucking hour, just $5 a month, you will get access to our DVD commentary track for Jaws and, of course, everything else we've done. And it's the best way to support the show, man. If you like what we're doing here, talking about movies, hanging out with us, it's like the next step, watching movies with us. So if you want to do that, sign up on the Patreon. We'd love to hang out with y'all and do that. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, it's also super simple just to go right underneath this video. You can click the join button and you can do the same thing. It's the same perks, same benefits, same patronage. It is $5 a month also on YouTube. You become a member of the channel and you get access to the same stuff, the commentary tracks, and you get 24-hour early access to every episode we do of the show. Sweet. So check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/1 fucking hour.
All right.
All right. You guys ready to get into the shizzo? Should we do it?
Yeah, let's go. Let's hit that clock.
All right. The clock is up and here we go. Boom. All right. Quick little background here on the flick tonight. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a remake of the classic 1956 sci-fi horror movie of the same name, but deliberately set in San Francisco. Public Health Inspector Matthew Bennell, played amazingly by Donald Sutherland, and I'm really going to try to call him Donald Sutherland this time. I kept calling him Donald Pleasance in our...
You were? Oh, I didn't even notice that.
You guys didn't even notice in the episode we did on Don't Look Now, so I'm going to try.
Okay, well, all right, so you fixed that. All right, okay.
I fixed that. I'm announcing that right here. Is intrigued when a coworker and good friend, Elizabeth Driscoll, played by Brooke Adams, tells him that her husband has suddenly changed. He suggests they speak to his friend, psychiatrist David Kibner, played amazingly by Leonard Nimoy, who confirms that several of his patients are claiming that their husbands or wives are not who they seem to be. He puts it down to mass hysteria until two other of Matthew's friends, Jack and Nancy Belichick, played by Jeff Goldblum and Veronica Cartwright, discover a hairy, oozy, partly formed body in their mud bath establishment. They soon discover that humans are being replaced with exact copies that are emotionless and are moving forward apparently unstoppable in their silent invasion to replace humanity. All right, man. This flick, heady.
Sounds familiar.
Heady, trippy shit, loaded with incredible actors, great performances. Some truly just unbelievably terrifying set pieces that are both weird, funny, and scary at the same time. We're going to get into all that. It was a real joy to revisit this movie, but I wanted to kick it off to you, Tom, real quick, because I know that you got quite the origin story with this flick. So
I've got, just for me personally, Tom's mother of all origin stories, as we call it. When I first saw this movie. So it comes out, and I'm getting old enough to know I like horror movies, and I saw the old Invasion of the Body Snatchers on TV, and I was like, oh, there's a new one, and I was like, Mom, I want to go. So she goes to see a Laura Antonelli movie. This is like in the the Upper East Side or something in New York. She's going to Laura Antonelli, and she's like, I'll talk to you later. And I go, cool, I'm going to watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I sit down, and it starts, and it's robotic electronic music going, and I'm like, okay, I get it. It's like outer space monster robot people sounds. And then I see this large man in this outfit, it's like jumpsuit, and he's spazzing, and he has a weird face, and it's a baby doll head, and I'm like, oh, right, that's like what they look like in this version. Like they're like the baby doll head jumpsuit body snatchers, and they're having a meeting because baby suit man or jumpsuit baby man goes upstairs, and he sees this general who's like, yes, baby face man, we need to do what we can to start this revolution. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever, and it's very different than the 50s one. I like it. And then there's a rock band suddenly, and the rock band's playing like robotic music, robotic Rolling Stone song, and I'm like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. This is incredible. And so cut to 2 years later, I realized that there's a band called Devo. There's a thing called New Wave and Punk. There's a thing called the music video. And yes, they insanely played the full promo video for the Satisfaction Devo video. In late 1970. It's so hip. In late 1978, it's a perfect pairing. And I was confused the whole movie, because I thought I wonder when the babyface guy's coming in. Like maybe around here, Donald Sutherland will confront him upstairs with the general man. And I'm like, because I really had no frame of reference at all. Yeah. Because I didn't think a band, would have a music. I didn't know anything about bands.
So can I just to make this clear, they played this in front of the movie.
Right. They played the promo for Satisfaction by Devo on film, just with unannounced, just right before Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And so I'm young enough to be like, okay, all right. And I had no context. I had absolutely no idea. I sort of knew there was a rock band thing that existed vaguely, like Elton John or something. My sister listened to it, but I didn't know it was this is rock and roll too, and it's crazy. I had no idea. And it also there's connective tissue. We could move on, but it's just because he is a very weird spastic thing that's having this weird upstairs meeting with this man about a conspiracy to have Devo around the world.
Every man, woman, and mutant on this planet shall know the truth about de-evolution.
Oh, Dad, we're all Devo.
Right. And it's it kind of made sense.
It is. It does amazing. Thematically pair with it well, because they've got that whole spud thing. Everyone is a spud, the conforming people are spuds, and that society is devolving, like Devo, right? So it's all.
No, it's whoever paired them. Wow. That's brilliant. Some Upper East Side, like the Beekman or something, the art theater, New York City. So anyway, and so I met Phil Kaufman many years later, and I told him that, and he was quite amused. He was like, "Oh, that's pretty wild." So that's Tom's adventures in movie going. But
amazing.
Yeah.
This movie used to always be on TV when I was a kid, or at least I feel like it was. And I saw it as a kid on TV. And the one thing that stuck out to me out of everything, the screaming, the vegetables, Donald's hair, whatever, the thing that stuck out to me the most was the rat turd moment in the capers.
It's a rat turd.
A what?
A rat turd.
A caper.
a rat turd.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what a caper was. A caper was a rat turd to me for 15 years after this movie.
Like a garnish of rat turds on your salmon or something.
So forever it was just like the rat turd movie, you know. And he says it 3 times, so it's well earned, you know.
Well, he tells the maitre d' to, if this is a caper, eat it.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, sacre bleu. It's so good. I mean... Yeah. I love that.
Kind of the grossest part, actually.
It is really, really gross. I mean, it's horrifying. I mean, just the idea of like a health inspector and that job and what they're doing and how prevalent is salmonella and rat turds that they must know about, and how can they eat?
You don't want to know.
You know, but he doesn't. He cooks his own food.
I love that role. He's sort of like the nanny state, you know, like he's sort of adjacent to science, but not really a scientist, you know. And he's going around like closing down businesses and stuff because they don't fit the because they're not clean
the code.
Enough. It's interesting, that character.
It's a weird character. Yeah. The origin of the character is very weird. For me, like, you know, I checked this off the 70s horror movie list, you know, probably maybe around 18, 19, something like that. And I just remember that, like, I don't know, it was so like obtuse seeming to me at the time. Like I could barely wrap my head around the movie for some reason. Like when I first saw it, but there are some set pieces within it that I'll never forget, you know, because they just left such an impression on me. And it was right around the time that I saw Deep Red also, you know, when I saw the Dario Argento movie, and that little puppet, you know, comes out of the doorway, that fucking long shot. Like that's one of the freakiest images ever. Yeah. When I saw that,
it is,
but
epic.
But tied with that for freakiest 70s nightmare images for me is the fucking human head on the dog in this movie.
Game over. Yeah. That's it. That's it.
We're just talking about this for the rest of the podcast.
Exactly.
I know.
Well, if you'll indulge me, just one last little thing. So, this is Tom's sidebar. So that was the big Devo thing. But of course, I got obsessed with the movie. I loved it. And my dad, you know, they were separated. My dad lived in San Francisco, in North Beach. I visited him in early 1979. And this movie's in theaters. So I'm in the movie's world. And we go see it, and then we walk out, and we're in the world. You know, like Chinatown. We walk up the street in Chinatown. We pass the place,
right?
The dry cleaner. It's like, whoa! But the second time I saw it with him in San Francisco, I was so unnerved and surprised by the dog face that I had to go to the bathroom, and I copped out. I fucking chickened out. I was like, because he hadn't seen it. And I was like, like I timed it, like I'll be right back, okay? Because like I know that fucking dog. I couldn't deal because it was the banjo music playing underneath.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a great cue.
Yeah,
that's
like
that banjo was played by Jerry Garcia, by the way.
That's right.
No fucking way.
Yeah, it was a friend of the crew. It's a very San Francisco. It's not just set in San Francisco. Its heart is in San Francisco.
It is San Francisco,
and there's Coppola crossover. You know,
totally. Well, the thing that's like just real quick, we'll touch on the dog face. Everyone's here for the dog face, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed about it in this watch is that it is an amalgamation of the banjo player in the movie and his dog. So it's kind of like a Fly type thing, right? Where they both went into the pod and then they got all mixed up.
Well, because what happens is Sutherland wants to protect the banjo player, and they go by and they kind of beat up the pod, so that screws up the DNA or whatever of it. Wow. You know what I mean? Thematically, that's what happens.
That's so fucking
right. Yeah. And it probably touched him and the dog with its tentacles as it's like copying the DNA or whatever, right?
So, well, he really fucked up the pod, and it didn't destroy the pod, but it mutated.
Right. The choice to have it lick through the mask is just so genius.
I know.
Connecting the organic dog mouth and the rubber mask.
It's just a mask of the player. Yeah.
And I just rewind it over and over and over and over and over again too. You know, it's like,
and it's sped up. Yeah. And the banjo music is like, that's just comedy. That's like a comedy music cue, like,
like Benny Hill or something.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, like it's played for laughs because like it's not happening, diegetically or whatever that word is.
Right.
Like it's not. There's no banjo. It's just like that's for us, the viewer.
That's his theme.
Yeah, it's a joke, but it also lets you know who that guy is. You know what I mean? Because probably,
yeah.
But
It's also kind of Devo too. That whole fucking part.
My mind probably thought like, oh, I see. This makes like it was like because it was like at least a year where there was the same. It was all one movie,
Right.
So, where do we want to start? I mean, like, we could talk about San Francisco as a place.
Well, real quick before we do, I think it would just to kind of transition to that, just kind of up to San Francisco. Is we did talk about how this is a remake of or depending on how you want to look at it, a continuation of the 1956 film, which was set in California, right? West Coast, small town.
Like I think like Sierra Madre, like right around here, up by Pasadena.
Yeah. Right. So different kind of feeling altogether in terms of the setting, but kind of looked at as
character names.
Okay.
Like Belichick and whatever Matthew's last name is. The same character names. Like some connective tissue there.
Oh, got it. And so, but it also kind of is serving more as an allegory for like, the commies and the Red Scare and everything that's going on in the Cold War era America. And so it's
also
interesting.
Closed-minded conformity. Like just to say, like there's two things going that are direct hits on like the 50s, the zeitgeist. And one of them is the Cold War and like the paranoia, but also sort of like post-World War II, like people living in the suburbia and tract houses and having sort of like that cookie cutter mind, which is also very Devo, the original film.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, totally.
It's sort of weird, like reacting against the Donna Reed era in that era, right?
Yeah. And it does have traces. It does. I mean, I know it's based on a book that was serialized in magazines, but you did have like in the zeitgeist stories like this, like Invaders from Mars. Is kind of this sort of silent invasion type, of movies where people are becoming these zombified people who are following suit, and it's sort of happening, and slowly our family members and loved ones are becoming imposters. It's a very, very, very scary idea, and that's why it's been remade and redone so many times over the different generations. But the late 70s is such an interesting time to do this in, especially in, as you were saying, San Francisco. Gives it a very like particular feel and vibe in terms of why they set it there. So kind of opening the door there for you, Tom, on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we were saying in the 50s, the two zeitgeist things being commented on are Cold War paranoia and middle-class conformity of suburbia. Now this, again, it's just 20 years later, and it's a whole different ball game in the American psyche. And there's, I'd say, two big chunky things happening, being addressed in the new version in 1978. There's almost like all the things that led people to join cults, because there's a big cult analogy where it's like, I haven't seen Bob in a few weeks. He's been hanging out with all these new friends, and like, and they're going to all these meetings, and he's like, "Hey, Bob," it's like, "Hello, my friend. It's wonderful to see you." And it like suddenly your friend has been like replaced with a, Hare Krishna pod person. So there's that. Then there's also just sort of like urban paranoia, like an alienation, like you're feeling very dislocated, and there's this huge lack of community, which helps to have it set in a big city. Yeah, where you're like, like people are just sort of looking at you for some reason, and you're in the bus, and everyone's like staring at you for no reason, and like, are they crazy? Are you crazy? And those two things are addressed beautifully in this film.
Yeah, there's kind of these two things going on, I think, in San Francisco at the time, right? You have the idea of, urban expansion in San Francisco that resulted in a lot of gentrification, things that like reshaped that city. You have that Transamerica building that's being built at that time, creating a lot of these new physical and social borders in San Francisco. And so it's kind of like around that time, a lot of people were looking at each other with suspicion and confusion, like wondering, who are these fucking new people that are coming into this city, into our place, and creating a lot of paranoia. What's going to happen, to our identity, to our
and
culture,
the paranoia was right, because .com happened to San Francisco eventually.
Wow. Oh shit. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, you were saying there was a second part of what you were going to say, right?
Yeah. The second part was what you were saying about the cult thing. This sort of self-help, self-improvement era was, I mean, in full fucking force in the 70s, especially in California at that time.
Especially in that town, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this at length, but shout out to Pauline Kael, as per usual with the episodes we do. She gave a glowing review of this movie, called it one of the best of the genre of all time. High praise. But she did also, she did pinpoint this idea of it having, some thematic allegorical ties to the self-help movement. She even basically says that, Werner Erhard, the guy who founded Est, was the original spore, making, a connection with the film in terms of this. And, for those who don't know, Werner Erhard being a sort of, former salesman, untrained psychoanalysis guy, psychiatrically self-help guy who held these seminars that went on for several days, consisting of 15-hour-long brainwashing sessions with participants.
Emotionally breaking people down.
Yep.
And replacing their selves with the pod to join his army of like-minded people into a groupthink.
Right.
I mean...
There you go. There you go. And that's pervasive today. I mean, his Est is now the forum. It's still going on today. And so it's still prescient. But yeah, I mean, that's something that she spotted. And of course, you can see in the film today that, this is a huge snapshot of the time. Yeah, Marcus?
Yeah. Well, just while we're in the subject of the psychology of the film, I was thinking about it in terms of, it's sort of like why it was received well by the audience is it's sort of like perfect for the me generation, these people view themselves as being unique and that everyone else is a fraud or as a conformist, and this movie is very anti-conformity. And so I thought that's one reason just why that's such a big part of the baby boomer generation is I'm unique. I don't want to be told what to do. And I'm different and all this,
They're not like their parents in the 50s.
Yeah.
Like Body Snatchers 50s.
Right, exactly. So they've got, I feel like that's kind of intentional or not. It's it's woven into the thread of the movie. And then also just conspiracy in general that there's this huge conspiracy going around and we're looking at, of course, post JFK conspiracy becoming a thing,
Watergate,
exactly. So anyway, I felt like that was part of it.
No, you're so right. And one thing I wanted to bring up, we could maybe start talking about some of the actors, the characters. I wanted to introduce it this way. One of the big things Pauline Kael observed, which I really liked, I guess I'd start talking about it with a comment that the director Kaufman made. He said that I wanted to show really warm human beings, full people who are friends, communicating, and it feels very real, very lived in humans, because that's the scary thing when you do that and you make these people warm and very recognizable and very relatable. This is just a fucking person, especially Brooke Adams,
Oh my God.
Then it makes the horror only that much worse. It's in such sharp contrast and relief that the nightmare of these identical clone people, because you don't want to lose her, you don't want to lose Donald Sutherland, you don't want to lose
the authenticity of
Jeff Goldblum
who they are,
because they're so idiosyncratic, But that's what Pauline Kael also said, because what Pauline Kael was saying too was San Francisco is a great reason for being a great setting is it's such a kooky place. It's people who are looking for a town where they can be as individualistic as they possibly could and run a mud bath, 2 a.m. mud baths reading science fiction, they're waving their freak flag high. So it's really the antithesis of clone pod people, marching in lockstep, so it makes it more terrifying than if they were replacing people who were kind of generic in the first place, in San Fernando Valley or something.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also too, it's and I used to live in San Francisco as well. In the aughts, I was there. But San Francisco is also a perfect setting for a silent invasion movie, because it would be fucking hard to tell if there was an alien invasion in San Fran.
Yeah, I know.
Because people are fucking freaks there, psychedelic burnouts, throwing trash cans.
The guy in the corner at the coffee shop is did he just flick his lizard tongue? He's wearing a black cowboy hat in the corner.
Dude, Shout out to One Fucking Hour Joey, who has been on the show many times. He and I worked at a record store in San Francisco, and there would literally be a dude that would come in wearing nothing but a dirty bathrobe and have a samurai sword tucked in it. And nobody would bat an eye on him. He was just flipping through the bargain DVDs like it was any other fucking day. There you go.
Well, in this movie, you know that he wasn't a pod person, though.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Or is he?
All right.
Well, just because everyone gets so straight laced, right? They are,
Right.
They do kind of become Devo. Well, you know,
that's one of his theories. That's one of Donald's theories, just to like what's going on with Jeffrey, Brooke's husband in the movie, is like that maybe he became a Republican.
He would eliminate whether Jeffrey was having an affair, whether he'd become gay, whether he would had a social disease, whether he'd become a Republican.
I love that. Like people who go through traumatic changes. You know, maybe he's the best. Maybe he's a Republican. I know
that's one of the best.
But actually,
ever.
You know, can we spend a second on her boyfriend Art Hindle? The other thing that I really love, the connective tissue with this film this film feels very Cronenberg, David Cronenberg to me. But I would venture to say that the director Kaufman, he did not see the Cronenbergs because they were early. Rabid. You know, he didn't. Cronenberg wasn't making an impact.
No, he was only Shivers at this. He was only Shivers at this point, I think. Pretty sure.
Well, and then Rabid, and so it's like he didn't. He could not have been influenced by Cronenberg, but they're both in the same neighborhood. Anyway, my only point is there's this great connection because Art Hindle is later in The Brood, David Cronenberg's The Brood, and that always gives me a little chill. He's such a great. He's got that great weird generic. Like made in the lab, generic handsome male, right? You know,
totally.
He's so well cast.
No, he is. Yeah. He's great. Can I actually quickly respond to one thing that you said earlier, which was just about how authentic the characters are in their relationships. Yeah, and you were talking about Brooke Adams and Donald Sutherland, and their sort of connection. It is amazing in that moment because. Horror films have a tradition of. I know why you're smiling. I'm going to get there. But horror films have a tradition with their leading characters that they, especially more modern horror films, where they're just fucking bickering and they hate each other, and there's a lot of bickering before the killing.
What is that?
I hate that. That's just so bad. Where did it come from? It's so bad. I don't know where it came from. Maybe Friday the 13th. I don't know. But it's like with these movies, it's like, or with this film in particular, it's like how much these characters in the beginning, Donald and Brooke, like they have this flirtatiousness. They, are not together. They're, she's obviously with her husband or whatever, or not husband, this guy, with Art Hindle. Yeah, boyfriend. But it's like you can feel that connection that they have. And of course, later on in the movie, when he says,
they have good chemistry.
Great chemistry when he says that I love you at the end, and then like
I love you. I love you. I love you.
That weird version of Amazing Grace is playing on like the bagpipes or whatever.
Bagpipes.
Mm-hmm. It's incredible. We will, but it's just there's just really great chemistry that those two have, and they feel incredibly lived in. But one of the details I think that hits at a home fucking run in terms of establishing their relationship is this little moment where Brooke Adams shows her weird eyeball talents.
Well, what does he say? He says to her, she's like, I think I'm going crazy, Jeffrey, his character. And he goes, you're not crazy if you can do that thing with your eyes.
If you're not crazy, you can do the thing with your eyes.
Yeah.
And she goes, you mean this? Like, and it's the most remarkable thing in film history.
So what is that? Twice. What's she must have brought that to the table, right?
She told Kaufman, like, they're all chatting over a beer or something in the shoot. And it's like, did you guys know I could go? And he was like, oh, that's in the movie. But that is... To what you're saying, it's like like the way he responds and the warmth of it. Like he knows she does it, and she's like, "Oh, that old thing." And like, there's they have a history.
It's amazing
and a love. And actually, what Kaufman said, because he observed that particular scene when she does that, is it's not even like, oh, they're crazy for each other and in love in some big romantic way. It's like they're just like really good ass friends. Like this is a great.
They care about each other. Yeah.
And like Jeff Goldblum and his wife Veronica Cartwright, fucking shout out. Like they're great like they're a great couple, and then all four of them are like great friends, and there's this warmth, and it makes it, just to reiterate what I was saying, it makes it even more tragic because it's like this is really the face of what you're losing if something like this were to happen. And we were all, our identity, our individuality was, and more important than individuality, but our connection, the quirky interpersonal back and forth between individuals.
We're going to lose that.
Gone. Yeah. Their relationship shows the humanity that's in peril. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it's so authentic, even that transcends even the theme of the movie, because you don't really see moments like that in movies, like true, authentic, you can't write it type moments. They're the moments that come that are extensions of the actors themselves, who they really are. And that's just so rare to see in a quote unquote genre movie like this. And it's like, damn, I gotta see more of that.
Hollywood kind of naturalism.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I guess naturalism. Right. I guess a lot of it has these roots, a lot of the great things that this movie have roots in it being a low budget movie, like versus a big Hollywood movie. So they're looking for ways to be creative and tell the story in more unique ways, like Kaufman talks about that a lot, like just how they were looking for little moments to make things feel off kilter or feel a little different. And shooting on, or even doing solutions like shooting on the street without clearing things, doing a little dock feel here and there. Like there are all these great moments that where you can tell the conception was born out of like just a low budget and sheer creativity.
Yeah,
and necessity is the mother of invention.
And shout out to Michael Chapman, who is the DP of this film. Man's got a monster ass resume, including Taxi Driver. He's the man. But Marcus, you brought up those dock flourishes that the film does have, and once kind of to rent, I think kind of one of the first real paranoia setting in sequences. After Brooke just is watching the change in her boyfriend as he goes to the dump his former shell into the garbage truck. But there's also this great little dock moment where I think it's Donald's walking around that sort of like marketplace, or he's walking around Market
Union
Street
Square.
or that Union Square area where there's all those like steak places with all the flashing lights.
And there's sort of like a phone call montage playing.
Yes, yes. And that's really well filmed. The people passing by, like in the bus, staring out of the bus windows and heightening.
Apparently he just had it, like Chapman just had the camera underneath a blanket and was kind of carrying it around, pointing it at Donald, so it is just stolen documentary footage.
It is. And I think it's a testament, and I have heard Kaufman talk about this. It's like, it's a testament to where that part, that's kind of the beginning of the third act in a way, or at least the middle of the film. And he says this working is a testament to like the world they've built and the tension they've built and the choice of the shots and of course the music and the sound effects and everything and all the Dutch angles and stuff. Because he said that really this is just people waiting for the bus. These are people walking by the camera on this. Like there's no one knows they're in a film. So it looks distorted to us because of the choices they're doing in lead up to that scene and then within the scene. And I think the music is a big part. Danny Zietland or whatever did some he really shred on like analog synths a lot in this movie. And there's a lot of like kind of heartbeat, pulsation, tension synth and stuff like that. And I think that adds to the tension a lot to otherwise just footage of people walking to work and stuff.
That is like they've gotten such control of the tone, which is that's the best, that you can show a person with a blank expression, and as the audience you look at it and you think like, oh god, there's they're isolated, they're empty, there's
the world.
Exactly. And then that is really top notch filmmaking.
It's really well crafted. Can we maybe I'd love to talk about the craftsmanship, but let's maybe just round through all the great actors, because we start talking about them, but just like, if you don't mind, like we got some killer people we should just tick off real quick. What do you think? What do you guys say?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so like Jeff Goldblum steals the movie for me. This is the first big Goldblum character and performance. He's amazing. He's a disgruntled poet who runs a mud bath, like an all-night mud bath, and that's such a great character. He's funny as hell. Like he's basically in a comedy, and And he's just got that nervy, twitchy thing that everybody loves about Jeff Goldblum. And then his wife is Veronica Cartwright, who you see a little later in Alien, and she's amazing too. We saw her in The Birds, and she's another strong female character like Brooke Adams. I think so strong, those two women, to the point where you don't even really think about it. But there's parity. There's no like the girl and the guy. It's like they're all strong, they're all flawed, they make mistakes, they're kind of figuring out this remarkable situation. You know, and I just love the performance of that couple, the Belichicks. And then,
well, we don't blast. Let's hold on. So, like for Veronica, like I thought it was so great that like her character sort of like reminded me of Jamie Kennedy in Scream. You know, bear with me for a second.
Slow down.
He's like the horror in that movie Scream. He's like the horror movie expert who knows how to survive because that. So she's like the sci-fi book nerd. You know,
for sure.
So she's got this quirky perspective that allows her to survive in the world. So I really appreciated that.
No,
I
you're
did
right.
look
She's
up,
like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I did look up the 2 books that she's in, that she reads, you know, and they are like sort of sci-fi classics. One,
what are they called?
Well, one is Star Maker, and it's sort of like it's a holy book of science fiction. It describes the history of the universe with some elements touching on genetic engineering and alien life forms. And then the other one is this one, Worlds in Collision, which is the one that they really mentioned by Velikovsky. It's like it postulates that around the 15th century BC, the planet Venus was ejected from Jupiter as a comet, and the comet object passed by Earth and caused all of these, you know, caused Earth to like lose its axis and causing all these catastrophes, blah blah blah. So just some sort of like kind of crackpot.
I love that she's so,
which is very late 70s, very San Francisco.
I love that she's so like up on all that stuff too, and really into that super heady sci-fi. That second book, which is the first one that you mentioned, I think also has been called like one of the greatest works of the human imagination by Arthur C. Clarke, you know? So it's just like the headiest of all crazy shit, you know? But I just love that these are great characters, you know, and they are very SF, you know, of the time for sure.
And I do, Marcus, like you're saying, like she's primed for this. Like she's got like she's just like barreling to have opinions on this. Like, why are we expecting? I love the great exchange. I love, and this is a perfect example of the humor in this film.
Yeah,
like,
I know where you're going.
It's like, why are we expecting metal ships with aliens?
Yeah.
Well, why not a space flower? Why do we always expect metal ships?
I've never expected metal ships.
And then Jeff Goldblum was like, I'm not expecting metal ships. You know, like she's already there.
I've never accepted metal ships. Yeah, it's amazing, and that's a perfect. Yeah, the movie does have those layers of, you know, comedy, of course, and dealing with the subject. But we got to talk about Dr. Kibner, played by Leonard Nimoy, and again, it's like we're sort of talking about the therapy cult idea, and he sort of is, you know, playing that character, a person he's
an icon of a self-help guru. Like, microwave version of self-improvement, like read my book, change your life, you know, that kind of thing, which is still persists today.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of amazing to have him and to throw him into this mix.
It's so incredible to see him outside of Star Trek because, you know, he is such an icon, you know, and he was super typecast. He has this huge presence. I met him once. He has this amazing presence in person, of course, obviously. On a commercial shoot. So very cool. But one thing that's interesting about I guess Kaufman was working on a Star Trek movie before this. He was going to do like a $3 million version of Star Trek, and he was working with Nimoy on it. And I guess they're just anyway. I guess during that time, his friend George Lucas was working on Star Wars, and the word around town was that Star Wars was going to be a really awful movie.
No.
The buzz was really bad. So I guess halfway through the project, you know, developing, Paramount gave him a call and was like, you know, there's no future in science fiction movies. Right. So
this is like December 1976. I know. Well, can I posit a question to you guys though? Because I'm very fascinated about Nimoy's character in the film. I want to hear your opinion. I'll posit mine too. Do we ever see that character not as a pod?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I wondered that
know what
too,
you mean.
yeah.
I definitely wondered that. It seems like from the minute you meet him, he's already a replicant or whatever. You know, he feels like Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that is sort of intentional, or what they're maybe trying to imply.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how close is a guy who has a very contrived way? Like, because the thing is, we're talking about warm connections, right? Okay. And he is not warm. He has a contrived, artificial way of communicating with people. Like, and it has a point, and it's very mannered, and it's very considered, and it's not natural, and it's not weak and happy and sad. It's just like, you have to talk, you have to communication. It's about, and so that dovetails into having a kind of, pod
or
headspace.
Or the kind of weird humor that this movie does have is that it's kind of like the idea that there's no change when he does become a pod guy.
That's what's great.
That also could be the humor of the movie.
Like, we did see him like the night before he was this is me, and then the next day he's like, now I'm a pod,
There's a point where he's leaning up against a dumpster, and there's like a shell next to it. There's like one of those furry shells right in the dumpster. So I wondered, I think Kaufman did slip up. Like, I heard him talk about it once, and I think he did say, like, once Nimoy's character changes. I think he did mention that. So I don't know if.
Wait, what are you saying?
When I was watching the the commentary or whatever, I think Kaufman does mention, like, well, when Nimoy's character changes, now he's of course he's fully changed or something. So I think
right.
he did,
Like, it happens in the narrative.
Right.
Just one little. It's just a quick side note on changes. The big heartbreaker for me is Jeff Goldblum, because this beloved, quirky guy is one of them, and that one always kills me.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. Let's talk about this, and then maybe this will open the door to a few other little set pieces we can get into. Is obviously where they put the money for this movie definitely is in the effects and of course the sound. But the effects, guys, in this movie are really, really top notch. And let's start with the opening. I mean, the opening we haven't really even talked about.
Awesome.
I mean, how fucking cool and trippy is it? It's just great just to see these like almost like nature documentary approach, to how this sort of KY jelly alien is going to infiltrate, Earth. And it's incredible just seeing it right from the beginning of how those kind of wisps travel off from their alien planet too. I mean, you really see
Shout
it
out to practical effects.
I know.
So great. Just like
magic
aquarium and some goop.
And like reversing the film, of course.
Classic.
Stuff like that.
Lots of reversing in this. The growing of the plants and the goop and the
and the wispy hair that's traveling around people and stuff. It's just amazing.
It looks. It looks so good. I mean, like I also watched Body Snatchers, the Abel Ferrara one from '93, which is not good. I knew 5 minutes in, I knew it was a snapping DVD case.
It's a snapper. It is a snapper.
It's definitely snapper. Sure. Yeah,
big time snapper.
But its effects are like updated, and it's supposed to be all about the effects, But they're literally using spaghetti in some moments, and it just does not look as good as this.
No way.
Well, one effect I wanted to bring up with you guys is, the dog face. Okay, that's a great effect. But when I was a kid, when I first saw it, the one that really was the most gnarly, and it might be the goriest thing I've ever seen, certainly up to then in my life, but maybe it's still the goriest. I know what it is. Yeah, is when he's dropping that hoe down on his own head,
face,
and like you'd think these creatures would bleed green, but it's like, no, of course they bleed blood because they're replacing humans. Exactly. That's gory, and it keeps cutting back to a face being decimated. Guys, like
it's one
of the goriest things ever in a mainstream movie.
It is, man. It feels like a bad mescaline trip, like,
dude.
I'm gonna go out and fucking start stabbing people after watching that, because it's fucking
seeing a face
stabbing yourself like let's destroy our own head.
It's like something you see it's like rotten.com or something,
It is rotten.com. It is,
but
that same scene does exist in the 56 version, but it's like it doesn't do the squish, head squishing thing.
It's not in color.
I could see them like, he just kind of taps it with a pitchfork too, and it cuts. But
it's just so fucking gory.
It's
and
gnarly.
the thing is, like you're saying, Evan, it's like it is getting almost Odorowski like. It's like destroy your own face.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, destroy your ego. Destroy your ego death.
Oh my god!
And then
you know what's touching? He couldn't kill his friends though. He couldn't smash that hoe down on their faces. He just couldn't do it.
I know.
Even though it's not them,
and that's real too. Like for sure,
you know, heavy.
It is. And then doesn't that cut from there to like the neighbors or the onlookers then kind of screaming at him too? Like it gets super ramps up.
They feel it when you harm one of the other pod people. They all feel it. It's like this collective consciousness.
It's very scary. Yeah, that scene is incredible. The effect on it is incredible, and of course, you know, shortly before that, when that's when he falls asleep, right, in his backyard or whatever it is, and that scene is terrifying with all the people growing and the effects.
It's
and
like
the flower.
Little midget Donald Sutherland with his afro, like
that's
like
Devo.
Baby. It's like, and it's a long scene, and the sound. Really, respect to the sound design. It is a wild. There's like 20 layers of insane sonics.
It's Ben Burtt. It's Ben Burtt, the guy.
It is from Star Wars.
Yeah. And I was listening to it, and I was going, "Is this the ARP?" And then I saw in the end credits, it's Ben Burtt, and it was mixed at American Zoetrope, and I'm like, 100%. That was the ARP, that they had there for Star Wars and stuff.
Right. Yeah, and it's like I know that's where they put a lot of the money, and it's funny in Pauline Kael's review too. Like she opens the review talking about this is like the case to be made for stereo, and like Dolby and like, this is the mother of
the best
all
example
Dolby.
Of Dolby in theaters.
Yeah. So it's like you got to imagine what that must have been like too. Like the experience of going to see this movie in '78. Not hearing movies like this. You haven't heard a film that's like this. And
it's a trip.
This visceral ass movie where someone's destroying their own face. It's crazy. Yeah.
The sound still sounds better than like the screams they come up with in the movies now. I mean? Like that scream is.
Of course.
Yeah.
Do we want to spend a second on craftsmanship in general, and maybe get into some set pieces? Just because we love the sound, but like also the cinematography. Chapman, like they're doing nods to noir film a lot, but they're doing it in their own way. And there's like great use of shadows and the way they're lighting. Like you're saying, those scary neighbors that are on their
impressionistic
deck.
shadow stuff.
Yeah.
Long shots, like a long planned out like shot. Like you look over here and you go over there, or like
a lot of handheld like it's small. Like they use no sets, like small rooms with handheld. I like the tension there.
That one, I love. There's a scene where they're all kind of like talking about what's going on in the very beginning, where like all the guys are in the same room, and it's this handheld stuff with a really wide angle lens. It looks so good, and all of it's choreographed so well, and there's a lot of like pre-Steadicam, Steadicam doesn't exist, but the guy's just like an expert camera operator who's just he hits his mark and holds the camera with a lot of confidence and.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's amazing. What other set pieces do we want to hit before the clock runs out? Because there's so many great ones. You mentioned did you want to touch on the ending? Oh, actually, what we should touch on is just the Kevin McCarthy cameo in this because it's kind of fun.
Yeah, good call.
And again, it's obviously clearly. Seeing how the director is having so much fun with this material as well too, to take Kevin McCarthy from the original film and UHF of course, how he is banging on car windshields and doing the same thing he's basically doing at the end of the original film, and so it's kind
like
of
where
this,
you left off seeing him in the original. He's been it's like the same suit he's wearing. It's comical what they're doing. It's beautiful. Like because he was in Sierra Madre, like I was saying in '56, and he was just slowly walking up highways, and then 20 years later he wound up in San Francisco, and he hasn't eaten or slept. He's like, "You're all doomed," and it's humorous. But that scene is. We're talking about set pieces. That's some scary ass filmmaking, and that's where that urban paranoia I was referring to earlier happens, where. It's like all these people are staring emotionlessly at like a dead, bloody man in the street.
Yes.
That is gnarly.
Yeah. It is.
Right?
Because you'd see that shit too in New York or San Francisco or whatever. Yeah.
Just Another quick cameo roundup while we're talking about it. Like Don Siegel, the director of the original, is in it. He's the taxi driver who's taking him to the airport. Robert Duvall has that really weird cameo at the beginning as a priest.
That is so weird, man. That is one of the weirdest
random
cameos of all time. Is like
it is.
You never see him again.
You'll never see him again. One of the most recognizable actors ever, just like swinging on a swing set, dressed up like a priest, staring at you.
I know.
The viewer.
Tom from
so weird.
Godfather.
Yeah,
no, but there's another Tom. There's a Tom Luddy. He has a cameo in it too. He's a producer. He's the head of the Telluride Film Festival and like the Pacific Film Archive. He's like kind of a big character in that scene. He died earlier this year, but he has a cameo in it. It's like one of the alien dudes coming up the escalator.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, Kaufman, the director, has a cameo. They had
too.
They had
DP
cameo
too.
fun in the film.
Yeah.
Low budget.
But they're looking for bodies to fill the frame. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
low budget decision.
I think they're having fun as much as
they are.
Too. It's like
probably both.
Because, like I was saying, this is kind of a home game. Like this is not shot in New York City or Hollywood. It's like it's the quirky crazies of like the Coppola world. It's an extended part of the Coppola Lucas world. It's the Bay Area, and like it's like the third coast kind of that is developed over the years, and it's like for instance, like the film composer, he made electronic records, and this is his only soundtrack. It's just like sort of like a group of crazies who like got like $5 million and are gonna make a movie.
And that fun really translates on screen too. I mean, this is like a super fun movie. I don't know another horror movie that does feel this fun to watch.
Totally.
I don't know.
Totally. Did you want to circle back around now to just kind of the last sort of chunk of the film, like these little set pieces that kind of lead up to the ending? Of course, where Brooke and
you know what this is? Yeah, what was just set it up is like this is maybe the example of a 70s bummer ending. Like even like Family Guy would make fun of like how 70s endings are always just like, and everyone gets shot in the head. And it's over, like credits roll, like Parallax View or something, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of those because like it's just unrelenting nightmare depression, like you lose Brooke Adams.
Sad.
Like Brooke Adams is nude they're hugging, he's embracing her and she's collapsing in his arms.
Yeah.
And falling apart.
Right. Great sound there too.
Yeah, like vacuum cleaner lint, it's in his arms. Like, fuck, dude, that's crazy. No, but what got me, you were talking earlier about the Amazing Grace that's blaring.
Yeah.
On bagpipes. And that's the sound of hope in that scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we and Sutherland and her are thinking, this is an international ship, and it's unrelated to the craziness of the Bay Area. And if we just jump on there, we're going to like Nova Scotia or something, like somewhere else. And
Amazing Grace is like salvation. It is.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Right. It's very symbolic. No, but back to the bummer 70s ending. So you hear Amazing Grace, and they're like, oh, it's a ship, international ship. They're about to set off the dock, and we're going to go to Hong Kong or something, and it's not happening there, and they're going to fight it. There's a chance. There's hope. And then they look closely. So what is going on in this ship playing Amazing Grace on bagpipes? Lots of pods. Okay, not good. And then soon enough, almost with comical timing, the director is like, okay, lots of pods on the boat. And then you just see some hack like worker guy go like, hey, this is boring. And he like switches off the radio, and Amazing Grace is off the
over.
Air.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah.
It is.
And it's just replaced by silence.
Yeah, very fucked up. And just leading into that moment too, when you have this great acting performance, from Sutherland there too, when he is professing, saying, I love you. And, they have this great embrace. And so you're built up that way, like their like humanity, their connection is reaching this apex. And we really care about these characters. We want to see these two characters come together, and be a couple. That's what we've been waiting for the whole time in this film.
Right.
And then it just takes it away from you, just as you said, when he goes to check out the boat, bad news, comes back, she is fallen asleep. And this movie also has that layer to it too. It has the sort of Nightmare on Elm Street kind of vibe where, you have to stay awake and you can't sleep and you have to take speed, in order to fucking
it's
stay
total
awake.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Like sleep equals death.
Yeah, sleep equals death. And so she's been taken over, and then of course she crumbles, as you said, and it's very fucked up. And then he's on his own, and we don't really know. He's running, he's trying to get away, and then we don't really know what happens to him until take it away, Tom, if you want.
Well, let's preface this slightly too. Like the very last moment of the movie, you're seeing a Donald Pleasance who is who's been doing what they were. They got smart.
Did he say Pleasance?
You did.
Did I say Pleasance? Oh my God. Donald Pleasance jar.
It's us. Yeah. I don't know
what is that? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
Sorry,
know.
take two. No, but so what Sutherland's been doing, one cool thing they figured out in the film is to act like them, which is very kind of Walking Dead. Sorry, but that kind of thing where you behave like them. Did they do that in Dawn of the Dead? Did they do that? Is that a thing?
I think just to make fun of them. I don't know if they really do it.
No, but they didn't pose.
I don't think
them.
so. I don't think so.
Anyway, but that's a big part of the film. So what you're seeing is Donald's going through his trials and tribulations, and then cut to him back to work, and he's at his office, and he's home, and he's commuting and everything. And you're thinking, okay, well, he's doing that, playing possum as a pod person, and no one's picking up on it because it was working for the four of them earlier in the film. So it's like, all right, Donald, cool. And, hang in there, buddy, because maybe there's something that's going to happen to change this circumstance. Yeah. But you're surviving because, he's us, the lead. And then we see Veronica Cartwright. I can't even say it, but Veronica Cartwright sees him. And this is like, I always imagine like fucking 2.5 months later or something. And she's like, Matthew. Like she's like, I'm playing, the inference is like she successfully played possum for like months. And then she's like, Matthew.
She's so happy to have that connection, right?
Yeah. Well, she's just like, I can't believe it. Because Matthew wouldn't change. He's Matthew. And he just fucking hits her with the fucking stupid, crazy last shot of all time. Where the whole film zooms into Donald Sutherland's mouth. That's a zoom in on his mouth. The end. And it cuts to her hysterically screaming at like the sound of her impending doom. Like, wow, isn't this horrible, guys?
It's insane.
Yeah,
anyway. It's a dark ending, dude. It's really fucking
so
dark.
Ill. No hope.
Ill. Yeah, it's really.
And the credits
crazy.
Roll, no music.
Yep.
Yeah,
of course. 1970.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's an incredible touch. It's an incredible ending. I mean, one of the best last shots of all time, right? I mean,
it's a great shock ending, and then just cut it. And done.
Yeah, fucking great.
But for me, the genius is cutting back to her.
Yes,
and she's so great at being hysterical. She gets wonderfully hysterical and alien. So she's just like born to be like, because that's super. It's like the last moment of human emotion on Earth before she's like the last one.
Wow.
And we all love that kind of zoom too, where it's like done on the it's
optical
like a little bit in camera, but then done optically
zoom.
on the animation table.
Yeah, fucking gets grainy as hell.
It's grainy. Yeah,
dude, I know. Because I always think when I see that, I always think like, they didn't shoot for that necessarily. They didn't do that in the moment. And I was like, they just went like, what if we fucking zoom down on his mouth?
Yeah,
it's like,
stoned in the edit room.
Let's try it.
Stoned in the edit room.
Let's try it. And it's like, I like this. I'm gonna sleep on it, but I really like it. And it's like, and it's so hardcore. It's so 70s. Well, anyway,
no,
it's the tone of the ending.
No,
any other set pieces? I mean, I'm kind of blanking on like there's subtler stuff.
There's the scene where they're sort of like they're walking on the street, and it's like just feet and legs, and it kind of like comes in. It's like it's Brooke and Donald, and they're walking on the street, and it comes in on the shot. It's like Dutched, and they're facing one way, and then they spin around and face the other way, and the camera corrects itself and then starts following them, tracking. It's such a cool little like stylized moment. And then we're just watching their legs for a while. It's almost like choreographed like a dance or something, And I just love that whole just that whole conception of like, here's another way to tell the story. Here's another way. Here's just another idea for a scene to tell this story of like what it's like to like live among these alien people.
Yeah, I think we were saying like it sounds like it was a very fun production, which isn't always the case with mainstream Hollywood movies. But it really, I think the word for me is like it's such a creative production.
Yeah,
it's like
very
everyone
creative.
is it's like, I mean, I hope I don't want to sound like, oh, they don't make them like they used to, but like
they don't.
Are there productions that are like just a big playpen of people like, well, why don't we try? Well, even at post production, it's like, oh, zoom in on his mouth, bro. You know, it's just like you can tell that it's the exercise is a fun exercise of creative choices. Like, what if we did, and everything, the camera work, the lighting.
It's creative, but it's also technically proficient. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like just creative and then, but they're not that good filmmakers. You know, they feel like these are like top-notch
these
filmmakers
are all
being creative.
Banger fucking guys.
They're pros in their field.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and also, too, when you're talking about, you know, ending the movie on the scream, just the scream in general, too, the sound of it. When you see it in the film, even pre, you know, the ending, when you see the other pod people doing that's fucking scary too. That's like this nightmare logic thing, you know, of seeing that sound and somebody doing that. It's something like out of a nightmare. It's very, very freaky, man, and very, very effective.
One of the
because they're they look human, but they're not making human sounds.
Yes, right. That fucks with your head.
One of the creepiest moments for me is when Elizabeth is in the garden in her home. That's with the lights and stuff, and like she's in like kind of buried in the plants. You know, she's
so weird
growing out of her pod there. That looks really creepy. And then they come back, and it's even scarier with the like she's not there, but it's like the pot that looks like it has eyes, and like another pot where her breasts would be. You know, and sort of like the figures made out of leaves. Oh, it's such a that image alone is really freaky to me. It looks like a scarecrow or something.
And that's like their indoor terrarium, or like, because it's a weird sort of garden that's
it's
inside
a weird concept
the house
too.
I want his place.
Yeah.
Big time.
Arts,
like way up on Telegraph Hill, killer view.
Yeah.
Eat fucking make Chinese food and like on a walk and like go outside and your fucking deck.
Yeah.
I always why don't I have a place like that? I have to do that. That's when I was a child I was like, that's what being adult. That's being a dope adult right there. Well, if you guys don't mind, we got 3 minutes, but like, you know, I'm a big fan of horror before like the horror drops, so to say. And what I mean is like the tension building. And one of the little moments that always stuck with me was it's a portion where he's trying to sort of save her from sleeping over all night, you know, and so Donald breaks into her house, and he's tiptoeing, and he sees the creepy Art Hindle boyfriend.
Yeah.
And what is he watching on television? You know,
a clock. Right.
Yeah.
He's watching a series of. Actually, I gotta say, I was like, what is that? And I did find out what it is. I thought, just like you said, I thought it was clocks of around the world. So it's like in Hong Kong, it's 3:15. In Belgium, it's 12:15. You know, but it's not. It's even weirder. It's like thermostats for farmers. So it's like barometer readings, like and stuff like that.
That's
and like
the best. He's watching that on TV.
Yeah, you know exactly. Well, it's a thing. It did get broadcast, but it's on like below UHF, and like no one other than someone who's like in that business would watch. But he's just like cracking open a beer and like, what's on tonight? And it's like barometer in the Midwest is slightly different. That's
I do love how once you're a pod person, you kind of you do feel this pressure to go back to your work, you know, and even if you're not actually doing work, you're turning the beaker on and off, you know, like you're flipping the switch, but you're not actually doing anything.
Well, so speaking of work, maybe just to round this out, like my whole thing about like the beginning of the film and like the building tension. The dry cleaner scene is not to be slept on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Much better now. Yeah. That's a big deal. Yeah. You know, and that shout out to the actor, the man who was at first concerned about his wife. He's in Chan is Missing.
Yep.
The Wang Wang film. He's a great actor.
Oh, wow.
Right. And that is so creepy because at first he's like, that's not my wife, you know? And you know, Pleasance is like, okay, I'm not really a doctor in the first place, but all right. And then, but she's looking at them talking, and she flips some weird dry cleaner thing that makes like this big, you know, pronounced, it like puffs the shirt or something.
Yeah.
Right? Thoughts, comments?
That
questions?
is so weird. Yeah. I had a note just written here that just says, wife much better now is what I had written down from watching it. And like that is a fucking great moment.
And more masterful craftsmanship, like we're saying. The camera is pulling back from him saying much better now because like Sutherland and you and the camera are recoiling
Yes,
obviously
it does.
another replaced person.
It
Fucking
does.
Stupid, man.
It does.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
it does have that.
It totally.
It has that feeling.
Much better
it does.
now.
Yeah.
And the first time you're in there with those machines, like you said, like he hits that coat. He's like
pressure,
and it's like inflating something like a husk, like the pod people are.
Yeah. No, it's great.
A human shape.
Fuck.
And then she's the wife, sort of hiding behind the plastic. Oh God.
Sorry. Dry cleaner scene for life. I love it.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the clock. That's the rules.
That's the rules. It's a banger. It's a banger.
It is 1 fucking hour on Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. Fucking great movie. Really cool set pieces. Maybe a contender for a commentary someday in the near future, by the way. I think there's a lot
I would like that.
We could get into on the set pieces and the style and the choices, because there's a lot of great ones in there.
Just the craftsmanship,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of great craft in there. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for 1 fucking hour on Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Let's talk about next week's episode. We're going to be getting into 1979 land, everybody. And so we're going to give you 4 different choices to vote on. If I'm sure you've been along with us on this journey. This is what we're doing. If you're watching this episode right now within 24 hours of it being live on YouTube or podcast platforms, you'll have a chance to head to our Instagram profile at 1 fucking hour and vote on one of these 4 movies from 1979 that we will cover. You guys pick. So hop on there now, click on our stories on our Instagram page, and you can vote there. Let's go through the 4 films from 1979 we picked, guys, and tell the good people a little bit about each. So the first choice you have from 79 is, this week we could have had a Paul Schrader film, Blue Collar, as we talked about. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's his next film starring George C. Scott called Hardcore. And what 1 fucking hour on Hardcore might be like.
How about that title?
I know.
I was thinking about that the other day, like now playing, like starts Friday. Hardcore.
Yeah. It's seeing that in the marquee, like covering your face as you walk into the movie theater, but that's got that.
Well, it's just such an iconic word, and it's just like, and then it became like the punk thing. It's like, it's just such a bold, nice, perfect title.
Perfect title for a movie. George C. Scott. Yeah, George C. Scott delivers one of the all-time great fucking punching through walls performances as a father from Minnesota, from my hometown, who loses his daughter. She heads out west and gets lost into the seedy underworld of pornography, and he's basically going undercover himself, just as a dad, to try and find his daughter, and it's a fucking intense ride. Great way to close out the 70s, too, with a movie like this, man.
Yeah. So, and all those sort of philosophical conversations that he and the stripper Susan Hubley have in the film, that they articulate lots of themes that are on Schrader's mind, and it's a special film.
It is. It's a great film. It's a lot of fun. So that could be option number 1. Option number 2, Tom, take it away with this one, because I know it's a big fave of yours. What would 1 fucking hour on Breaking Away be like?
Oh shit! Well, it's the triumph of a small film. We were talking about 1979. Like, what are we doing? And in the 70s in general, and in this year, there were some big chunky ass movies, and we've done a few. Like we did All That Jazz, for example. But this is a small film, and I think even today I was thinking it surprises me that it got a Best Picture nomination, that it was a surprise hit, because it's really tiny. Like, we were talking about low budget films, with Body Snatchers, but this was like, I don't know what the hell the budget was. No stars, but it was a winning, beloved film that was a classic word of mouth hit. It's just, and it's Dennis Christopher plays a kid who is in Bloomington, Indiana, or something like that. And he dreams of being a great Italian bike rider, and he has this whole fantasy world that's so unlike Indiana. And him and his friends are going nowhere fast, and they have their ups and downs. Who's in it? Dennis Quaid and oh my God, who is it? I love him. Daniel Stern.
Yeah, right.
And then also the kid from Bad News Bears is really great in it.
Yeah.
That guy.
Fuck. Sorry.
Who did the new version of Freddy Krueger. I love his character in the film. But yeah, it's just a really sweet small town comedy that just won people over, and it's just not uncommon then and now. So
and the quarry,
it's a special film. The quarry, hanging out at the quarry, killing time. It's got a little kind of dazed and confused kind of Linklater kind of feel. It's
energy,
loose,
lived
in.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool. So that's option number 2, 1 fucking hour on Breaking Away. Option number 3 is a movie that I have a personal history with. Very excited about it. It's one of the all-time what the fuck movies. I think it would rank high on any list compiling some of the most insane movies ever made. We'd be doing 1 fucking hour on The Visitor from 1979. Directed by Michael J. Paradise, one of the great director names of all time. But it is, I know, it is the king of all sort of Italian rip-off films. It's an Italian financed movie produced in Atlanta, Georgia. They're sort of mashing up, Star Wars, The Birds, Omen, Exorcist, you name it. It's all in a blender and sort of distorted mix up. You have Franco Nero plays a space Jesus in it.
He does?
Yeah, you have John Hughes playing sort of this weird traveling Obi-Wan Kenobi character in
wandering around different dimensions. You have a great evil little blonde girl.
Oh, one of the best. One of the best.
With the greatest birthday scene ever.
Ever. Yeah. It's one of these movies. It's one of these movies where every scene is more outlandish and crazy than the next. I also released... Yeah, the basketball.
I was just going to say basketball.
The best filmed basketball game in history is in this movie. And I have a personal history with it because we actually re-released this movie when I was at the Alamo Drafthouse about 10 or so years ago. And I got to know the screenwriter of the film and some of the craziest behind-the-scenes stories in existence. I learned from him on the making of this movie. So if you want to hear the real story of The Visitor... vote on that. So thumb on the scale.
Okay.
Option number 4 is 1 fucking hour on Being There, Tom.
Oh, Marcus?
Sure. So this is a classic. Hal Ashby directed this film. It's got Peter Sellers sort of playing against his normal thing. Like normally he's playing really extreme characters. In this movie, he's like basically got no character or just like very flat and sort of just reacting to the world. It's got this brilliant theme where like television sound is woven throughout the entire movie, which I just absolutely love. It's got a really sort of enigmatic ending, which is really famous. So I guess we probably dig into that, try to figure out what that's all about.
Right.
And
it's Sellers' last film, and he had made just lots of garbage. Years and years, popular trash, but all still just trash. And he just before he died made one masterpiece. That's a beautiful thing. And very simply, the story is a high concept, but it's really wild. This is a human being who's like in his 50s, who has never been outside, and the only experience he has is what's ever on television.
Yeah,
it's a disturbing and darkly comic high concept, and they play it out. He's never met anyone except like the other people who live in this weird little house that he's kind of part of the caretaking team.
He's a gardener.
He's a gardener. He's never been outside. He's never talked to anyone in the outside world. He's never seen a car go and stop at a light or anything. But he's seen thousands of cars stop at lights
on TV.
On television.
Yeah,
holy shit!
Yeah.
It's wild. Hal Ashby.
It is.
It's great.
So there are your 4 choices. 1 fucking hour.
It's a good year.
It is, 1 fucking hour on Hardcore, Breaking Away, The Visitor, or Being There. So hop right now on the Instagram at 1 fucking hour. Click on the stories, and you'll find the poll there, and you'll be able to pick whatever movie you like. And we did sort of approach 1979 in a different way, mainly because you have these monster films. You got Apocalypse Now, you got Alien. These are all films we do want to cover eventually, but we figure just for the fairness of the poll, let's kind of, make some interesting choices that kind of have a fighting chance among each other. So that's why we
have
picked
the undercard like knock each other's brains out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that will be that. Looking forward to whatever it is for next week. And of course, one final shout out to the One Fucking Hour Patreon, patreon.com/onefuckinghour. You can sign up there for just $5 a month. Get instant access to all of our exclusive DVD audio commentary tracks. Hopefully, by the time that this video is up, we will have our DVD audio commentary track on Jaws, one of the monster films from the 70s that we love. Talk about great choices and fucking incredible crew and great backstory, but also just great set pieces and scenes. Truly one of the greatest movies of the 70s.
Over and over, yeah.
Over and over. It's incredible, and we're going to dive into that. We were a little shocked it didn't win the 75 poll, but we're going to give it a second chance, and we're going to go to town on it on an audio commentary. So the only way to hear that is if you want to sign up right now to the One Fucking Hour Patreon, or scroll underneath this video on YouTube. If you're watching it, click the join button. You can sign up there for $5 a month and also get access to the commentaries and the 24-hour exclusive jump on all the episodes. And we appreciate that, guys, signing up. We built a cool community thus far. It's awesome to hear from you, and to, you can message us on there, and it's great feedback we've been getting on all the episodes. So we really appreciate that. That's the best way to support the show, either the Patreon or the YouTube membership. All right, guys. Well, I think it's time to get the fuck out of here. But of course, we can't leave all of our One Fucking Hour homies without their Momen of Zen.
Fuck
What the hell is this going to be? All right, everybody. All right, have a good rest of your week, and we will see you next week for 1979. All right, everybody, take care, and bye.
Bye.
They came from another planet, a dying planet. All they sought were the means to keep their civilization alive, and they found what they were looking for on Earth.
Sorry, honey. Go back to sleep. I'm just going to do the job.
Okay, dear.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.
Much better now.